Good day everyone, this is Teacher Leslie and today I'll be guiding you through a quick but meaningful journey into infancy and toddlerhood, focusing on the physical development of infants and toddlers. Get ready as we explore how these tiny humans grow, move, and develop one adorable milestone at a time. But before we proceed to our discussion, let us first welcome our Mars ng Bayan, Camille, Pras. Alright, coming back to our lesson, let's start with something you probably seen but never questioned.
A baby lifts their head, learns to sit, crawls, and eventually walk.
Looks natural, right? But behind these milestones are two powerful principles, the cephalocaudal and the proximodistal developments. Cephalocaudal means development starts from the head down. So before a baby can run or even stand, they first learn to control their head and upper body. Meanwhile, proximodistal means development moves from the center outward. The torso comes first, then arms, then hands, and tiny fingers. That's why babies can wave their arms before they can pick up small objects. Now let's talk about one of the biggest concerns parents usually have, the height and the weight. So right after birth, newborns actually lose about 5 to 10% of their weight. And that's completely normal. But don't worry, by the end of the first year, most babies triple their birth weight. Growth is incredibly fast in the first year, then slows down in year 2. The important thing is not being the biggest baby but showing steady and healthy growth over time. Next, we move to the most amazing part, the baby's brain. In the first 2 years, the brain is in its most powerful stage of development. Think of it like a supercomputer forming millions of new connections every single day. This is when the brain builds pathways through dendrites and strengthens them through myelination, which help messages travel faster. And here's the beautiful part. Everything a baby experiences, loving, interactions, playtime, being talked to or read to, helps shape their brain. By stimulating, caring environments build strong connections, while lack of stimulation or constant stress can slow things down. Finally, let's talk about motor development, which begins with something we all find cute in babies, the reflexes. Newborns comes into this world with automatic survival reflexes, the sucking, rooting, gripping, more Aristotle, gallant, or tonic neck reflexes.
The sucking and rooting reflexes helps the baby feed. The gripping reflex makes them hold on tightly to anything placed in their hand. The more starter reflex happens when they're surprised. They stretch, pull back, and sometimes cry. And reflexes like the gallant and tonic neck reflexes show us how their little bodies automatically respond to touch and movement. Over time, these reflexes fade and are replaced by more intentional skills like crawling, walking, and eventually doing fine motor tasks like picking up toys or feeding themselves.
That concludes parts of my discussion. And now I'll pass this to Miss Prasos, who will walk us through motor skills and other subtopics.
Hello everyone! Now watch those hands and feet in movement. From the first kicks to the first step, let's watch infants grow step by step.
Let's learn about motor skills. This is where infants start with reflexes like rooting and grasping, holding up their head, roll over, sit, crawl, and walk.
Have you ever wondered if infants can really see, hear, taste, smell, or feel? Now let's uncover how these little explorers begin to make sense with the world through their amazing 5 senses. Now let's explore the 5 newborns' perception. The first one is the visual, the smell, the taste, the hearing, and the touch.
Newborns see best at 8 to 12 inches, mostly shapes and faces with blurry details. By 3 months, babies focus on faces and follow moving objects with their eyes. Now, did you know that newborns can hear before birth and react to sounds? This is the reason why they turn towards familiar voices after they were born. Cool, right? Third is taste perception, in which they prefer sweet flavors like breast milk from their mother and explore taste through mouthing objects. Fourth, the smell. They recognize their mother's scent earlier on and distinguish the difference between pleasant and unpleasant odors. Lastly, we have the sense of touch, which is the most developed sense at birth, where they respond to warm pressure and pain and comforted by gently soft touch. Now, did you uncover some fresh new ideas about the different types of perception? Great! Now let's move on to physical health. Healthy physical development support motor growth and overall well-being. Activity and play are important. Toddlers should have plenty of movement and opportunities. Moreover, proper nutrition, safe environment, and responsive care are essential.
Get ready to explore with Mr. Bisa as he uncovers fresh new ideas with fun and flair, making the complex simple and the serious entertaining.
Good day, everyone. Today, I'll take you on a little journey into cognitive developments of infants and toddlers. We will focus on the sensory motor stage where babies explore the world like little scientists, learning by touching, tasting, and experimenting with everything around them. But before we proceed to our discussion, let me ask you first a question. Who do you think first described the sensory motor stage? Right, it was Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget was a brilliant Swiss psychologist. The sensory motor stage is actually the first stage of his 4 stages in cognitive development. Cool, right? Now let's dive into our lesson. The sensory motor stage. It's when babies learn by exploring through seeing, touching, and moving. Every little action is their way of exploring and understanding the world around them. How do babies actually learn? Simple, they explore everything. They suck, grab, stare, shake, and poke whatever they can. Every tiny moves helps them to discover new texture, shapes, and sounds. Their curiosity is their superpower. Jean Piaget divided the sensory motor stage into 6 sub-stages. The first is the
primary reflexes, primary circular reactions, secondary circular reactions, coordination of reactions, tertiary circular reactions, early representational thoughts.
First is the simple reflexes. It is the automatic responses like the palmar grasp. Second is the primary circular reaction. Babies repeat actions they enjoy. For example, they might accidentally suck their thumb, find it comforting, and do it again and again. Third is the secondary circular reactions. Babies' actions become intentional. In this stage, they repeat actions like shaking a rattle to hear the sound to learn cause and effect. Third is the coordination of reactions. Babies begin coordinating their actions. For example, they may push something aside to reach a toy, showing early problem solving. Tertiary circular reaction. At this stage, infants actively experiment with actions to see the outcome. For example, they might end up wearing the teething as a bracelet. And lastly is the early representational thoughts. At this stage, babies using symbols. For example, they might pretend a banana is a phone, showing they can think about things even they are not present. The sensory motor stage is important because babies become little explorers, learning that their actions have effects and that things exist even when out of sight. This stage lays the foundation for thinking, problem solving, and understanding the world. Thank you everyone for listening. Let us always remember that every little move and discovery is a baby's way of exploring the world. Now, let's take a closer look on how babies learn to think and talk. Please welcome my co-discussant, Mr. Louis Justin Agarin.
Good day! For the last part, I will discuss 2 important topics under the cognitive development of infants and toddlers, the language acquisition device, and the summary of what infants can do cognitively. So in line with our lesson, let's first define what is cognitive development. It refers to how infants think, learn, and understand the world. This includes attention, memory, problem solving, and especially language, which begins much earlier than we expect. Noam Chomsky proposed that humans are born with a language acquisition device. This is like an inborn mental program that naturally equips babies to learn any language they are exposed to. Just like the heart is made to pump blood, the lad is made for language learning. This explains why children learn language very quickly even without formal teaching. Studies show that even at 5 months, babies already use the left side of their brain for language sounds. They also babble more from the right side of their mouths, which means the left brain, the language center, is active early. They also progress through predictable stages by cooing, babbling, one-word speech, and later, two-word or telegraphic speech. At 0 to 6 months, infants already show early cognitive skills. They watch their caregiver's face, make cooing or gurgling sounds, recognize familiar people, and explore objects using their senses. They look at new stimuli and react to voices and sounds. These simple actions are foundations for later language and thinking. At 7 to 12 months, infants begin to understand simple words like no. They look at picture books, match identical objects, and examine toys for several minutes. They also say their first meaningful words, use simple sounds for animals or objects, and begin to search for hidden objects. This shows the beginning of object permanence. From 13 to 24 months, toddlers rapidly grow cognitively. They can point to body parts, follow one-step instructions, say more words, and even attempt to converse. They begin matching pictures, recognize sizes like big or small, and understand simple cause and effect. They also show memory for people, places, and familiar experiences. These milestones shows that infants learn best in a rich and responsive environment. By talking to them often, reading books, naming objects, and allowing explorations are very important because their brains build connections rapidly, and early language exposure greatly supports lifelong learning. So to sum things up, infants and toddlers already show remarkable cognitive abilities, especially in language. With the and proper stimulation, they learn quickly and naturally.